decide that this is actually inevitable that it works, because I'm choosing to be someone that finds a way no matter what and goes all in no matter what. So of course it's inevitable. Like, the game changes.
Welcome to Trujectory, the podcast committed to helping you align with who you really are, your true self. The one who is so comfortable with their uniqueness, so in love with life, and so effortlessly able to manifest everything they always dreamt of. I want this podcast to be a resource to help you jump into the driver's seat rather than continuing as a passenger in your own story. Let's understand why we choose to hold ourselves back so we can shed the lies that we've programmed into our minds. We can heal the root causes and step into the epic human that we know we can be. If you're ready to start aligning with your trajectory, let's do it. Oh my gosh. So we have the beautiful Lauren Darlington in the studio today. Hey Lauren, how you doing?
Hey, I'm so good. I'm so excited for this.
I'm so grateful for you to be here today. And we are experiencing some delays in the recording, so hopefully you can hear me okay. But there you are, there she is. So for the listeners, Lauren she's multidimensional. She has a lot going on, but she, apart from being a mama, she is also working with so many people, helping them in their business. She's working with energetics, strategy, and devotion is her key. That's sort of like her thing. And I really want to tap into that today because I'm so intrigued and interested by that. I think it's so powerful. So Lauren, can you give us all, myself included, because I know you do so many things, a little bit of a rundown of what you do with your clients currently, and like what do they receive when they work with you? What's the transformation?
Cool. I love this question. And I feel like every time I'm asked it, it'll probably change, because it's like, this is what I do. But then like the expression and the evolution changes depending on the energy of what I'm creating or who I am. Because it's like anytime we go through a shift, it's like, there's a new flavor. But essentially my main focus and the main transformation that I support, I want to say tangibly for my clients first, is to actually build their business to 6 figures and beyond. And for me, it's so much deeper than like, let's build to 6 figures. Like, it's so much more about, I know that that's kind of that first starting point where we really experience like the financial independence of being in our own business. Like, that's really the point where it's like, I'm fully independent now. This business supports me to live the life that I want. I get to live the life that I want. I actually get paid to do what I'm here for. I get to be in my legacy and receive for it. And it's like the first big milestone. So it's just like such a juicy thing to be a part of. But then intangibly, it's really supporting them to, and I'll expand on what I mean by this, to actually live their life as a devoted woman. And for me, that's like someone who is like, I don't just want my clients to thrive in their business and like hit some financial goals. It's like actually thriving in all areas of life. So when they work with me, it's like they have a deeper relationship with themselves. They're more self-expressed. Their relationships thrive more. Who they are as a mother, in like a lot of my clients are mothers, like who they are as a mother thrives. Like the way they see themselves, like their confidence, like how connected they are to themselves, how embodied in their feminine they are. Like, I've noticed, and I was actually reflecting on this morning, I'm like, I think a part of it as well is my clients all seem to go through quite a big death and rebirth when they come to work with me. And I'm a bit like there's so many happening simultaneously right now for clients. And I'm like, oh, okay, this must be a thing. We must all die and get reborn when we work with me. So it's really like supporting them to step into that next evolution and really embody the legacy that they're here for. And I do that through obviously the strategy and the 6 figures, but then also bringing in like the energetics of working with their business, but also like the energetics in terms of like who they actually be. And then devotion for me is really like, it's really the pathway. It's really like how we do everything. That's like a Cliff Notes version.
Yeah, I know. I love it. Now we can dig a little bit deeper.
Yes.
So there are so many things I want to tap on. I do want to talk about legacy as well, because that's something you do touch on a lot. And it's really, you've opened my eyes a lot to even just thinking about, the legacy that you're leaving behind. What are you actually creating and what that means? But let's first go into devotion. I really want to tap into this. So what are your devotional practices that you sort of do every day that really bolster you? Because I know we do a mastermind together. We've had some chats in the past where we sort of, other people have asked, how do you overcome stresses and how do you get to do the things you need to do even when you don't feel like doing them? And you're always quite, upfront in saying, this is what I do. And it's fantastic. Yes. I'm always like, I'm taking screenshots of your advice going, okay, I can try that. And so it seems like devotion for you is always like the go-to. It's what you sort of rest back on to be able to find yourself again and boost yourself. So what are your practices? What does devotion look like to you?
Oh, I love this. And this might be a bit of a long riff, but I know we're here for them. So
love it.
For me, I call my daily practices daily devotions. And I say this when I recently did two in-person workshops, and it felt like a heap. And I was laughing and I was like, I don't actually even know where daily devotions came from. It's just like one day I decided to call them daily devotions instead of morning routines. Like my partner is she's very masculine and I'm very feminine. And like a lot of the practices I did back then were things I learned from her. And I was like calling them like morning routines and doing the things, but the energy was very like, gotta get in, gotta get it done, gotta tick things off the list, gotta do my morning routine. Like it was quite masculine. And at the time, I was very masculine in my life, in my business. Like energetically, I was so rigid. Like it was just impacting all areas of my life. And for whatever reason, I got the download, and now I'm like, actually, devotion is definitely a soul code. So it makes sense that there was just one day this like download of like devotion. And I decided to start calling them daily devotions. And I noticed that one, I'm someone who's really consistent. Like I was a bodybuilder in a past life. So like discipline, consistency is just like so ingrained in me now. So it wasn't necessarily that I struggled with consistency, but I noticed that there was just like this complete shift around my daily practices where it wasn't like I have to do them Monday to Friday, tick them off, tick the box. It was like, I'm just someone who devotes to myself. Like it's just what I do every day. I can't imagine not doing it. And it just became this like, not even something I had to think about being consistent with, but just something that I just did it daily. And I noticed that I started to kind of soften energetically, and I started to like find it easier to be in my body, and I started to shift more into my feminine. And I was like, there's something here with the frequency of devotion, because I'm like, I'm doing the same practices, doing the same kinds of things, but the energy of like, I'm really big on like the words we use. It was like the frequency of devotion altered it. And I say a lot that like the energy behind what we do is going to impact what we're doing. Yeah. So it's like, for me, the energy of devotion completely shifted my daily practices. So since the start of the year, I've called them daily devotions. And for me, I see them as like I kind of separate them in my mind. And I've got my processes that I start with that are very like my more feminine practices. And then I shift into my more like masculine practices, because then I feel like I'm energized enough to get into my day. Whereas if I was to do like just my feminine practices, I would probably find it harder to like shift into like, okay, now it's time, pardon me, for like business or to get things done, because I feel really soft and gooey and in my body. And I'm like, I don't want to get up.
Yeah.
So for me, I kind of have a toolkit that I rotate and I kind of chop and change. I find probably once a month I need to change them up. But essentially, I have a little framework called the 4 E's, and I choose something from each of them. So you're going to test my memory, but because it's relatively new, but I have like it's empty, it's empty, exercise, energize, and elevate. So for me, empty is like silent meditation. Like I want something that's going to empty my mind. So the first thing I always do is I drop into a meditation with the violet flame. So I play violet flame frequency, and I just allow myself just to clear my field. And then I'll do a silent meditation, because I'm like, before I reprogram, before I manifest anything, like I need to actually like clear my field, clear my mind, and really drop in. So then once I've done that, I'll connect in and normally do either like something that connects to my heart or my womb. So I'm really in like my feminine and really wanting to like connect in. And then I'll move into like practices that are energizing my vision. So like that's where I'll do like a vision script, and I'll focus on manifesting. And I'll move into something that's elevate. So something that's reprogramming beliefs. So I'll do some belief reprogramming, which is that elevate kind of experience. So it's like we want to empty our mind, energize the vision, elevate our belief systems, our concept of self, our identity. And then exercise is obviously its own thing. So I'm like, everyone needs to exercise every day. And then on exercise, I'm very, very blessed that I have a sauna in my house. I'll have a sauna, cold shower, all the things. So I have about 2 hours of a morning that I devote to myself. And I have so many people that are like, you're so lucky, that would be amazing. I'm like, yes, and I'm a solo mama and I still find ways to have it happen. Even now that my daughter, she's 3 in February, she has decided she wakes up earlier and she comes out and she wants to do things. But I'm like, I still am a woman who devotes to myself every day, and I find a way, because like there's always a way. So that was a very long riff, and there's so many places I could have gone, but I'm aware of answering for one question. So they're my daily practices.
No, that's fantastic. And I love that. It's so true. Like, just from outside looking in, you definitely seem to be able to, you know, you are a mum, you're a single mum, and you're still kicking so many goals, you're getting so many things done. And yeah, it's really inspiring to see. I wonder, is it sort of the devotion side of it, is it a matter of also letting go of like the time restrictions of things and sort of just trusting that all the things that need to be done will be done? Or are you still a little bit aware of, you know, I've got my daily devotion time in the morning, and but by 10 I need to get sort of going? Or do you sort of really relax into it a little bit?
Yeah, it's a great question. As a mum, especially, and like given calls and stuff, I do have like for me, I know that by 7:30, 8 o'clock, I need to be ready, because I know it's time to like get my daughter ready and get ready myself. And I always like to be like behind my laptop ready by about 9, because I have 3 days a week when my mum's here to help while I work. So I do feel I have a really good integration of like my masculine and my feminine, where it's like, and this is why, like, when I started to really like embody my feminine and do all the healing and all of the embodiment I've done this year, I had so much resistance to it, because I used to see women in their feminine who didn't have the masculine and were kind of just really fluid and floaty and getting nothing done. And I was like, I don't want that. Like, I can't, like, no. So for me, it was realizing that actually we get to be in our feminine, and we also need our masculine to have that really clear structure. So I definitely still have the structure, because for me, it's like the structure actually allows me to drop in. So even down to like when I've got a day with set themes, like this podcast interview, I have alarms on my phone so I can be in my creativity, like I was creating just before this, but there's the masculine structure of the alarm on my phone to tell me when it's time to shift, so that I don't miss things. Yep. So it's like the structure allows our feminine to then like lean back and be like, I can fully be here, knowing there's some kind of masculine trigger or structure or framework to hold me, which works really well, I found, in business. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And you've had your own business for quite a while now, right? Like, how many years have you been working for yourself?
I last like had a proper job. I last worked for someone in the end of 2018. So I think it was October 2018 I quit, and I went full time. But so it's been about 5 years now full time. But before that, like, I've been online, like just sharing before I even knew I wanted a business, like sharing my story and writing for probably 2 or 3 years before that. So the online space, I feel like I've been in for forever, but like I kind of say 5 years, because that's where I feel like it was like the final thing of like, all in. I finally have replaced my income. I'm all in on my business. It's about 5 years.
Amazing. That's amazing. And that's really inspiring for people like myself that are just starting now, going, okay, you know, 5 years from now I could have some pretty good shit together. That's awesome. But I know that, oh, sorry?
Or less.
Oh, yes, I'll take that. I'll take that for sure. But I know you started working a lot more with the energetic side of things and using, you know, incorporating the metaphysical realms and everything. Was that always a part of your business, or was there a sort of a shift where you started in more of a 3D structure and you sort of did some research? I know you've worked with quite a few mentors and healers and people that have sort of, you know, they work in those other realms as well. Have you always been really tapped into your spiritual side and led that into your business, or was there a shift?
100% a shift. And the shift was actually this year. So it's been a recent shift. And
oh, wow.
Yeah, this year's been like, you know, at the start of the year, I was told like this year will be one of those years that you look back and you're like, that's actually the year that everything changed. And it really was. Like this year, everything got rebirthed. And it was almost like everything I built up until now was the foundation for what I'm actually here for. And I was told at the start of the year, like, you're not actually in your soul purpose. And I was like, oh. And at the time,
Oops.
yeah, I was told, she's like, I don't actually, like, it's actually incredible that you've built the success you have because it's actually not the thing you're here for. And I'm like, oh my God. So I was so masculine and so strategic and so like 3D and logical, and like my brand message last year was just like, just do the thing. Like I was so masculine and so just like, do the thing, the answer strategy, just take action. And it's like I've taken parts of that and brought it in, definitely, but it's like, well, actually, without the energetics and the devotion, you're only going to get so far. And it's also going to be really clunky and hard. And I was so in the hustle energy, and it's like, that's actually not sustainable. But what was really interesting for me is like, I've been spiritual. Like I've done this thing behind the scenes. Like my partner is like so galactic and all of the things. And I would do like all of her stuff, but it was all behind the scenes. And even this year, throughout the year, I had some close friends who worked with me being like, I had no idea you do this stuff. And I'm like, oh, I thought I shared about it. And like, not enough that it's obvious that this is what you do. So there was definitely an unveiling that happened this year for me to bring it into my work. And I think for me, the big reason that I did bring it in is because I realized that, well, one, actually realized what I'm here for, which is the big part around the devotion, and like the priestess path and all of that. But also I think I finally reached the point where I was like, I actually can't, like, I don't even know why I'm hiding this part of myself. It's not intentional, but there was just this part of me that felt like I needed, one of my biggest, I guess, wounds or beliefs that still comes up for me in business is feeling like I need to know everything in order to talk about it. So I really felt like, oh, can I talk about this stuff? Because how can we ever know everything about this? But there was this fear of like, right. I don't know enough. And I'm like, well, how, like, there's no way of us knowing everything, especially in this area. Yeah. So it's been a this year thing.
So relate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I'd so relate to that, honestly. And even even though you didn't necessarily realize you were sort of hiding it, I'm only just now starting to talk about it myself. And it's been about 5 years since I sort of had a heavy spontaneous awakening and went, what the fuck is going on with this world? Oh shit. Like there's so much more than all of us know. This is incredible. But like you, it took me so long to get, the courage and consistency to do and to back myself to do this podcast, because like you, it was like this story of, well, I want to talk about these things, I have to know everything. So I would burn myself out researching, reading everything I could get my hands on. And when you're reading things so fast that it's literally going in one ear out the other, like your focus is just like, I'm just literally looking at words, I've turned the page, so yes, that is a check. And it's like, no, you're taking this in. I feel like my new system is, when I read a book, I need to read that same book like 3 or 4 times, maybe 6 or 7, it depends. But there's so much dense information. This is why I love that you've sort of found your area in this field, because there's so broad, right? There's so many areas that you could sort of tap into, whether it's manifestation or healing but with you, it's devotion. And that's incredible. So where does the legacy fit in? What does that mean to you? What is that? Tell me about legacy.
Love this question. And I love it because it's something that really landed for me this year, that I don't believe we can ever pinpoint like it was that one thing or that one realization, that one mental, like it's the accumulation of all of it. But the realizations that I had around legacy this year were definitely a big part of the puzzle of me actually landing in, I'm here for devotion. And I'm still in the discovery of what that is. And I probably will be for the rest of my life. But for me, I'm someone that never knew like, this is my purpose, this is my mission. Like I've never been that person. I've never been the person that like, even in school was like, this is the thing, or this is the thing, or, and then when I got with my partner, who's like, my mission is to raise the raise the vibration of humanity on a global scale. I can say it because I've mocked it so many times, because I was like, right, great, thank you. Like, I'm like, far out. Like, how it was so triggering for me, because I was like, great, you're not only clear, but it's a big ass mission. Like, shit. And it brought, as relationships do, all of my stuff up. So the start of this year, I was really journeying. I was like, shit, I don't know what my mission is. And it's definitely not that big. And I'm like, where do I fit and what do I focus? And I've just been told I'm not doing my purpose. So, oh my God, what am I doing with my life? And it was this big moment of like,
Oh gosh.
and I know this is really common for people, like, what's my purpose? What am I here to do? And
Mm.
what I noticed for myself is the more I tried to figure it out, the more frustrated I got. And it was like the further away I felt because I was trying to logically figure out this thing. And part of this year, I've done a bit of study, and like one of the courses that I was in called Embodied Energetics with a beautiful woman called Mel. Her business is Soul Leader. In it, she was talking about the legacy channel. And I was like, and I was listening. And we did this process, and she connected us into what's called like the legacy channel, which my interpretation is basically it's like a channel of energy that like streams your legacy from your soul, right? That was my interpretation and what I've spoken about since then. And it was what I started to notice. It was like one of those things that jumped out at me from the program. And I was like, there's something here for me on this. So I just started to spend time every day tapping into my legacy channel. Now, I had no idea what my legacy was. I had no, like, it's not like there was logical information coming through, but I could feel the energy of my legacy. I was like, oh, I can feel what I'm here for. I can't articulate it, but I can feel it. And what I started to notice was instead of being so obsessed about like, what's my mission and what am I here to do, by connecting into the energy of my legacy, I was actually being, which I didn't realize at the time, but in hindsight, I was like, I was actually being coded by my legacy. And then all of a sudden these pieces started to drop in. I was like, right. So for me, the legacy was kind of like the answer to me finding out what I'm here for. And I see like the legacy as like the thing, like our mission as the thing we're here to do. And obviously like our legacy is like the imprint that we're here to have, what we're here to leave. Like it's like the mission is like what we're here to do as a part of the legacy. And for whatever reason, when I connect into the legacy, I feel really expanded, and there's not this logically needing to figure out what I'm meant to do because it's actually just the pathway for whatever I'm here to leave. And it just opened. I just found that it opened up the pathway, and things started to drop in around my mission. Yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful. I love that. And I feel like it instantly, even when I think about it, because I've only started thinking about it since I've seen your content around it, really. And it instantly, like, I guess, like you said, the word is expansion. Like it stops me from thinking, I have to have every single thing sorted now and I have to be doing it right now. It's sort of like, this is a bigger thing that we're talking about. And, much further down the road is when it's going to find itself, define itself, and, create whatever impact it's meant to make. But it sort of allowed me to stop going, oh my gosh, I have to have it all now. I have to have it all figured out now. It's like, it's going to figure itself out along the way. But yeah, it's just it's just a different way to look at things. I really like that.
It is. And I think it also speaks to like, I'm someone who's chopped and changed and pivoted so many times in my business. Like it's taken me 5+ years to land in like, this is actually what I genuinely know wholeheartedly I'm here for. And I've chopped and changed so much. And for me, when I look at the legacy, it's like that doesn't get discredited or made wrong or get excluded. It's like that's a part of it. It's all a part of it. It's all a part of what I'm here to have. It's all a part of what I'm here to leave. And it's like the legacy can become so big. And it's like when I look at it as like what's the imprint we're here to have on the world, it's like every conversation we have with a human is a part of the legacy. Every piece of content is a part of the legacy. Like everything is on the way. It's all leaving little imprints and marks on the world. Like, yeah, it's just so much more, I feel, inclusive and kind of like includes everything that we've walked and been through.
Yeah, seriously. Oh my gosh, I love that. I'm like, there's so many questions coming to my mind as you're speaking. I'm trying to like write them down. So I want to know, what is one of the things, or the thing, if there is one main thing, that you love most about the career that you've built for yourself?
Oh, this is a good question. I actually, like so many is coming through at once, but
Could be multiple things.
Yeah, the thing that came through first, and like the thing that has just become so big in my world this year, has actually been the spaciousness. And I've really been journeying for myself, like, what does it actually mean for me? Like this year's highlighted that for me, spaciousness in my business is like the thing. It's like the compass. It's like how I know when I'm off track. It's like the thing I'm always building towards. And it's not spaciousness in terms of I don't have to do anything and I make money and I have one call in my calendar. Like it's not that. It's the spaciousness in my life to choose. And, you know, like I'm at home, like my daughter this morning, I'm on a training and she like opens the doors and goes, love you, closes them and runs off. Like she does that every day. And it's like the most beautiful thing. And I'm like, I get to have this, and it gets to be okay that happens when I'm delivering to my clients, like because of what I've built, because of the business, but also who I've built as a brand. Like it's so, like it's so inclusive. It's like mums and their babies are welcome. Like I had a mum and her bub in my workshops. Like it's that's the kind of brand that I've built. So it's like the spaciousness, but it's also like it's like I feel like my soul giggles because it's like I get to do this and it's actually work. Like for me, self-expression is my top value, and I feel like I literally get paid to just express myself all day, every day, and like co-create with incredible humans and support them to express themselves and support them to build the life that they want. Like it's actually mind-blowing. And you know, I've had people ask before, like, and even, you know, it's been conversations with my partner about like, well, when we get to a certain level of wealth, like, would you just want to be a mom? And I'm like, hell no. Like, even if we had all the money in the world, I would still do this because I love this. So I think my favorite thing is like, that it is my favorite thing. That I'm like, I genuinely love what I do so much. Like, I remember before, like, earlier in the year, someone was like, what do you do aside from business? What do you do for fun? And I'm like, business? Like more of it? Like I don't know. Like, and that was
separate?
the journey for me. Yeah, exactly. I was like, create other stuff. Like I don't know. It's just for me, creating is just everything. Yeah. So I think like the spaciousness and just the fact that I get to do it. I love it.
I love that answer. That is so brilliant. I can already see the teasers from this podcast out of that answer. Because that's what this whole thing is about. This is what I want to talk to people about the fact that you can do what you want. It is possible. And that's why I love talking to people like you and showing others that, look, even as a mum, as a single mum, you've still been able to create this life that you absolutely love. And that is the benchmark, right? When you go, even if I had all the money in the world, I would still do it. Like that's when you know that you are in your purpose and you're following your passion and you're just freaking rocking it, girl. That's awesome. I'm so happy for you. Like you're just lighting up when you're talking about it.
Yeah. I love
it. So because you do help people with so many different things, but I know you've helped people with social media. Social media is a beast, right? And I'm the perfect example of like the scattered person who's just coming into this world. I had 2 years off social media and, you know, to be honest, at the time it was freaking fantastic and it was really hard for me to come back on. But I know that with the work I want to do, I need to be a bit more visible and I want to share, you know, conversations like this. I want nothing more than to share it with whoever needs to hear it. So it's, you know, it can become, if you're not doing it right and if you don't have a sort of structure or a really clear idea around what you're doing, and I feel like some days I do and some days I don't when it comes to my socials, it can become almost like a part-time job. And I've already got a full-time job and then I've got the podcast and I'm starting a business. And then so the social media is like this whole other entity in itself. But I know you've pretty much sort of cracked the code here and your content is constantly, one thing I love that you said was, when you're educating people about creating content, you were saying make sure that each post, wherever you can, is almost like a mini training. And I love that because what you're doing is you're just giving so much value to people. But for, you know, I'm sure you have so much advice around this and we won't, you know, people should be paying you to get this advice. But when it comes to just the basics for people starting out, if someone wants to start some project or a new business or something like that, what are the main things that you see people sort of messing up on when it comes to social media, or, you know, what are the mistakes that you see people making?
Yeah, great question. So a couple of things, and I think like the first thing that I would say, like the biggest thing that I guess I see people like not like mistakes that I see people making is actually not being really clear on what they're talking about in their content. Okay, there's about 45 answers coming through at once. So it's like not being really clear on what they're talking about in their content. And then also in their content, not being really clear on what they're saying in that one piece of content. So it's like on the macro scale, it's like not being clear on what are the things that I talk about. And like if we look at it from like a strategic lens, it's like what are my content pillars? What are the things that I talk about that come under the umbrella of like what I do? So the space that I've claimed, what I'm doing, what I'm focusing on, who I'm here to help and how. What are the 3 to 5 things that I actually am going to be known for, that I teach on, that I talk about, and building that consistency in their content. And it's almost like when we look at their social media, there's no consistency. So no one actually knows what they do, who they help, and how. There's just a lot of stuff happening and a lot of different types of content and different types of messaging and, things that they're like kind of throwing at the wall and being like, let's just try this and see what happens. So I'd say firstly, not having the clarity around, well, what do I actually say in my content? And that's the thing I hear from a lot of clients when we start working together is like, I would be consistent. It's either like they struggle to be consistent, but the reason they struggle to be consistent is because they just don't know what to say. And if they knew what to say, it would be easier to be consistent because they wouldn't spend 4 hours trying to think of what to post. And instead it's like half an hour to an hour to actually create the post. So actually knowing what they say, but then actually being clear in each piece of content on what they're saying. Like you can tell when you go through social media, like there's posts where you're like, it doesn't really say anything. Like there's a caption and a carousel, but it doesn't actually say anything. Like everyone's kind of like, what are they trying to say? What's the message they're trying to get across? Like I'm a bit confused. So
I know that feeling. I know that feeling. That's how I start. I start every post with some intention, and by the end, even I look at it and go, what have I just said? Like, what is that?
So it's really good to be like, what's my point here? Like what's actually, I say, especially for those of us that kind of like get lost, I'm like, land the plane and then talk about the journey. So land the plane, get to the point. What's the thing that you're going to say? Like, and start your post with that. How I blah, blah, blah. 4 ways to da, 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 da. And then talk about the actual journey. Here's how we're going to talk about it. Here's my example of it. Here's my story with it. So actually doing that. So it's like clear on what they're saying, clear in the content, but then also clear on who they're talking to. Because if you're really clear on this is the problem that I solve, this is how I solve it, and this is who it's for, everything else in your business gets so much easier. Because when it comes to what do I say in my content, you can just be like, well, what does that person need to hear? What would I say to help them solve this problem? What can I teach them today about this problem? In your content, you can speak directly to them, right? And you're able to speak in a way that's going to land with them. So it's like once we're clear on those really simple but really important foundations, everything else actually gets a lot easier. So that's what I would say is probably the biggest thing that I see with content. Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you. I love being able to give the listeners some tangible, try this, start with this, start here. And in that respect, I'm going to take that advice as well for myself because it's a constant. It definitely, there've been some moments where I've gotten that clarity, and then there are some moments where I have 50,000 things that I want to say, and it's like, it gets skewed and it gets, it gets lost in translation, and you end up going, I don't even know who I'm talking to. What's going on? So wow. Because social media is such an important part now.
It totally is. And I think also making that okay. Like I have days where I'm like, I don't know what the hell I want to say, or when there's like 10 posts that want to come through at once. So it's also knowing that like it will always be in some sense a part of it. And it's then looking at like, okay, if there's 40 different messages I'm trying to communicate today, what's the one that actually lines up with what I'm focused on right now? Like our content is the start of our sales process. So it's like if you're in a launch for something, we want to make sure that our content is actually in relation to whatever we're launching. But then also, it's really useful to have like the structure, like we spoke about earlier, right? Having the masculine structure to allow the feminine creativity, where it's like for me and for my clients, I always make sure that there's like the content pillars, there's some content prompts. We have like a monthly focus, so we know what we're focused on in launches and things. That's the masculine structure to allow the creativity when we're creating content to be like, oh, I can now flow. But if I get stuck at any point, I can refer back to the masculine structure and be like, oh, I'm having a mind blank, the creativity is not there. Great. What's a content pillar I can talk about today? And what's a content prompt I can use? So it's really useful to have that too.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. Thank you for that. I love that. That's really helpful. I want to tap into beliefs around money a little bit. So,
cool.
as we know, we're manifesting all the time, and some people are aware of this, some people aren't. Whether you are or you aren't, you're still manifesting all of the time. So it comes down to your beliefs, right? So I wonder with you, have you had a big sort of shift in your beliefs and your relationship with money at some point that sort of triggered a bit more success in the last year? Or have you constantly been working on this? Like what's your journey with your money beliefs?
I love that you ask this because I think it's really easy to look at people making money and think it was always that way. So I just love that you're asking
Mm.
this. I've been, for me, money has been one of the big things. Like it's definitely been something that, and I remember I was told by an astrologer once, she's like, you will actually, like you're here, part of why you're here is to do with wealth and money. And she's like, and that's why it's a constant thing you're working on. You know, it's the thing, whatever we most need to learn, we end up teaching. And
Yeah.
yeah, for me, money's been something that I've constantly worked on since I started in business, because I grew up with, you know, a mum who was on Centrelink and a dad who works really, really hard, but always has just enough or struggles to get by, or like the money disappears. So I didn't have great
Mm.
programming around money growing up. Like a lot of us who were like kind of breaking out and doing things differently. Like I'm the only one in my family that's done things this way. Um, so for me, yeah,
Yeah.
working on money beliefs has been something that I have constantly done. I would say that I've definitely had a big shift in like financial success in my business this year. And I feel like it's definitely, of course, like an accumulation of the money work that I've done. But also, I feel like because I did also finally shift into like, this is really what I'm here for. This is actually like, it was also, this year's the first year that I fully went solely business coaching. Up until the start of this year, I had
Mm.
side projects of like design or OBM stuff. So this year, which not a lot of people knew at the time, like was the first full year of business coaching. So to shift into what I have was really big. But it's a daily thing for me, like money, reprogramming beliefs, energetically connecting in with money, doing any healing around money. It's a daily thing, and I feel it'll probably always be, because it's like there's a new limit every time, right? So there'll always be some kind of thing with money. And something that I learned from my partner, who focuses a lot on manifestation with money, is like it's just it's like any relationship. And it's like if we have a relationship in our life, it needs constant nurturing and care and all of the things. So yes, definitely done a lot, and it'll be a daily thing. I think it's really important, especially as women in business, and especially as women when it comes to money. There's just so much
Mm.
programming.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That's the thing. So you did touch on to manifestation just a little bit. Do you have daily practices that you do around that that's literally just based on money? Like, is there anything you can share
Yeah,
with us, or if it's,
totally. Totally.
yeah?
So for me, anytime I'm like, the processes that I use whenever I'm like feeling that there's really something big to work on or something funky's happening. So I had a period in my business this year where I was like, there's some funky manifestations going on. I don't know what's happening here. And I was going through an initiation into like my own masculine, but also feeling really safe with money. So for me, every single day, I would energetically call in money, and I would connect to the energy and the frequency of money, and just allow myself to feel what it feels like to surrender to money, and to feel money like hold me, and to feel what it feels like to have money code
Mm.
me. And like I'd visualize like money like coding every cell in my body and like going through my nervous system. And so that was something that I do, and I still do whenever there's like I'm wanting to shift something quite big with money, or I'm feeling a bit like unsafe or frantic, or I'm trying to clutch money. That's a really beautiful process
Mm.
and really like simple. But in terms of daily, for me, it's reprogramming those beliefs. So something that I learned again from my partner, it's not my body of work, is called a vibe booster, which is something that she's created, which is basically like we're all great. Well, most of us are really great with morning practices, but every couple of hours, our vibrational set point will actually drop back to its set. Sorry, our vibration will
Mm.
drop back to a set point. So she's created what's called vibe boosters, where every couple of hours you listen to an audio or you do affirmations or something that's then going to raise your vibration. So over time, your vibration is remaining at that higher frequency. So for me, every single day, one of my like I'll have vibe boosters that are specifically reprogramming my beliefs around money, and I'll focus on whatever I'm coming up against at the time. So if I'm wanting to call in my next level, so let's say I'm playing for 50K months, it'll be around like calling in
Mm.
50K months and whatever beliefs I need for that. Or if it's that I'm not feeling safe with money, it'll be like, I'm so safe with money. I'm so secure with money. Money's always there for me, like whatever I'm wanting to feel.
Mm.
So that's a daily thing. I do go through kind of seasons where there'll be like, you know, processes I'll intuitively do, where it might be just like gratitude process for money, or like I'll, you know, have money on my altar and like connect to money that way. Like, but there's not kind of set things
Mm.
outside of the belief, because I know that the biggest thing with money to really shift for myself is really that belief versus like there's kind of like deals with then everything else energetically.
Absolutely. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. There's so many takeaways in this episode, guys. Oh my gosh.
Good.
This is fantastic. This is like a big old candy bag. What did you used to party bag when you used to be, go to parties when you were a kid? You get like
a little
party bag?
Goodie
bag?
Goodie bag. Goodie bag.
Yeah. How cute. Okay, so because you are a busy gal and you got a lot going on, I am going to let you go in a sec, but I have one final question for you. I mean, I actually have 50, but let's just stick with one.
I mean, I could talk for another hour. I'm like, I can't believe it's almost been an hour. This is great.
I know, right? Time flies. We'll have to get you back on in a couple of months. Give us some more juice.
For it.
So for people who are in a 9-to-5, and I'm sure you've possibly maybe had some 9-to-5s that you didn't like in your past, like we all have, for the people who are in those situations now that are dreaming of that, I feel like I could do something. I don't necessarily know if I believe in myself or what steps to take. What would be the first maybe 1 or 2 things that they could start to work on to just start taking some action, making some progress towards that goal that they have?
Totally. I think the first thing that I really want to say is actually getting clear on like what that is. And if they're not clear on what that is, ask yourself and just be curious. Don't be like, I have to know the answer right now, because the reality is, like I said, 5 years to land in what it is doesn't mean it has to take 5 years, but know that it's totally okay if it's a journey. Start to journal on and be like, if I could do anything with my life, what would it be? Like, what do I want to be known for? When I leave this earth, what do I want to be known for? What's the imprint I want to have on people's lives? If money wasn't an issue, what would I do every single day? Like, just starting to get clear on like, how do I want to live? What could my life look like? What do I enjoy? What am I really good at? Like, if you can find something that touches the points of, this is what I'm good at, this is what I love, this is what people need, and this is what people would pay me for, you've got the thing. Like, the thing where that intersects, that gets the thing. So firstly, get really clear on like what you're actually wanting to do. And then in terms of actions, the best thing, it's like actually reverse engineer that. So be like, cool, if I want to start a business where I'm, a confidence coach, right? Be like, okay, well, in order to get there, who can I get in touch with, or what podcast can I listen to, or what book can I read, or what coach can I find that's already done it so I can learn from them how to do the same thing. Like, the best thing that I can say is, if you are in something and you're wanting to create something else, find someone that's done it and figure out what they did, right? Whether that's a YouTube channel that's free or a paid course, like, reverse engineer the process and be like, oh, these are actually the steps that I could take. And then actually put a stake in the ground. The biggest thing that I see when people get stuck is actually they're not claiming anything. Like, you've got to decide, and deciding means you cut off all other options. So it's like, I'm going to decide that this is what I'm doing. I don't know how. I don't know if I believe in myself. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I've decided from this day on, this is what I'm going to do. From that place, it's like, cool, what's my next step? What's my next action? Who do I need to be? Right? And actually start operating as her, even while you're in your 9-to-5. Yeah, like, how can you be? I was in my 9-to-5 listening to podcast episodes or listening to trainings from my coach while working, and then going home and working on my business outside of that, because it was like, I'm not going to wait until my 9-to-5's gone. I'm going to start now. So like, get clear on what it is, decide that that's what you're going to do, and then actually put a stake in the ground to take the action. And that's where things like investing are great, because it's like, once we invest money, we're like, oh shit, I better show up and do the thing now because I put money on the table. But also, like, this is where, when we have started to build up our audience and we're nurturing, this is why launching programs and offers, if you're wanting to get into coaching, are so important, because it's like, once you put something out there, you've then really like thrown your hat in the, what's the thing where you throw the thing in the, I don't know, you basically put your foot on the arena. I'm basically combining 5 analogies in one. You're so welcome. You've thrown your hat in the running. You got to show up.
There's rings and arenas and pitches and
there's so much happening. Essentially, do something that you then have to show up for. Yeah, because then you'll be with all the stuff. Like, you're going to be terrified. You're going to doubt yourself. You're going to all of the things. But the only way that you're going to get somewhere is actually by being willing to have the courage to take the first step. Like, we cannot bypass the courage piece. Yeah. So actually just start. and know that like it'll be an evolution and it'll be a journey. And that's the best part. You'll figure out what you want by figuring out what you don't want as well.
Yes, I love that. That's the thing. It's so true. You learn along the way, right? It's sort of, we build it up in our heads thinking we have to have all the answers to jump into this new business that's perfect. And it's just waiting for us to step in there and claim this perfect thing. And it's like, no, you're going to learn who you are along the way. You're going to fumble. But I love what you're saying in terms of put a stake in the ground, because that, you know, for me, it was something that when I finally decided this is what I want. And just the act of getting rid of the backup plans and the parachutes and all of that, cutting them off, sealing all the exits and going, no matter what, I'm sticking to it. I might have a bad day, a bad week, but it doesn't matter, because when I'm done with that, I'm coming back on the path and I'm going to keep moving forward. So that's fantastic advice. I love that.
That's the thing. Like,
good old mindset shifts.
Yeah, because it's honestly like, I think one of the beliefs that has me be successful and has me know that I'll always be successful is I'm like, my success is inevitable because I'm just never going to stop. And it's not from the hustle. It's not from the like, let me show you. It's just like, I'm just never going to stop. So of course I'm going to get there. And that's really what I heard when you said that. It's like when we choose that, it's not like we're only able to do that if we can follow through, if we're confident or whatever. It's like, no, you get to decide that this is actually inevitable, that it works, because I'm choosing to be someone that finds a way no matter what and goes all in no matter what. So of course it's inevitable. Like, the game changes. Yeah.
It's so true. You choose to be successful in that moment and it's done. The decision's made. And now it's just a matter of letting it unfold. So, my darling, how can people get in touch with you, and what are you working on right now that you want people to know about? Because there's a lot of stuff going on in your court. I love it.
Instagram is definitely the place. So at lauren.darlington is my Instagram. And that's just my home. That's where all the things are. I'm there all the time. We're always on stories. There's always something. And at the moment,
love it.
I would say just go to my Instagram and check out what's in my bio, because it depends when this is as to what's alive. But there's always so many incredible free things. I've got a free Facebook group where I always run my free live things. Like, I think there's probably like 8 of them in there from this year because I've done so many. So there's always like so much value going into that. I've got an Instagram broadcast channel on my Instagram page as well, where I'm dropping like value 3 or 4 times a week. So go to my Instagram, have a little look, and come say hi.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And for all of the wisdom that you've just dropped on all of us today. We all appreciate it. And I will talk to you soon, my love. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me on.